Well, all right, so they're on. They're rolling. Anyways, here we are. Finally, 10:10 here on the third day of February, the second day, the second month, the third day in the second month of the year 2024. Anyways, broadcasting live here from the beautiful campus of Richmond, Virginia. Well, listen, I thought that everything was going to go smoothly. And then we just did the radio. Well, I tried to get here early. Right? Well, we did. We really did. And Art wasn't here. Art was not here. But yes, absolutely. No. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to Art showing up next week. We do have Sir Philosopher in the house. He's on the other side of the glass with the crew over there. But shout out to everybody in chat. Remember the interaction chat, Newsman all over social media. And I see Roundhead K2000. He says he has his bowl of cereal or his coffee. Timothy Garrity, I see down there. Lone Dragon. Cato's Collection. Big M. Let's see, who do we have? Sergeant Curtis Schultz. And a couple of other people down in the chat. Thanks, everyone, of course, for joining into the show. And make sure you tell everybody that we are casting live. Well, one of the interesting things is that we have figured out that we are shadow banned. The algorithm has pushed us down. And what does down mean? Well, down means that it's not showing up in people's feeds. It's not showing up in people's stories. Cagefish, shout out to Cagefish. Saw you up in. So, yes, there's a lot of media censorship going on. In fact, I was telling everyone before on the radio segment, the first hour of this radio show is radio only. And why? Because, well, it is a radio show. So we want to make sure that we keep the radio show vibe. And then all of a sudden I show up here on the camera right here because I do have the Sam Cams on. Sam Cams on Instagram. Sam Cam on over here on YouTube, Facebook, and X. That's what it is. But yeah, so here we are, radio only on the first hour. But I did fire up the Sam Cam. Very excited to do so. But everything has been kind of crazy. Yeah, no, well, I'm going to probably get to that at the top of next hour. Apollo Creed passed away. Yeah, well, no, not from Ivan Drago. No, Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers, the actor who played Apollo Creed. He also played, I forgot his name. Happy Gilmore's his coach. Yeah, with the wood in the hand. Yeah, because, the crocodile bit my hand off. Yeah, right, yeah. He played that too. All right. You think of Happy Gilmore? Think of it. Carl Weathers, Bob Barker. The actor who played Jaws from the James Bond films. Happy Gilmore. What a if they made a new one, would they CGI Bob? Would CGI Bob? Would they CGI Carl Weathers? Oh no, Carl Weathers died. That's right, he died and went to heaven. I think isn't that what that would happen at the end? It's been so long. God bless that movie. Mud Scuffer showing up. Josh Miller 79, government name. So we have everybody here in the chat. The general is trying to hold me down. That's what Big M says. The general is trying to hold me down. Well, listen, I haven't heard from the general the last couple of weeks since he called in. It was very interesting when the general does call in, because when the general calls in, I have to be on my P's and Q's. Well, yeah, of course. And then, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, shout out to G Hess RVA. That's Gary Hess on the Voice of Sports Radio all over Richmond. Shout out to him joining in the chat. Make sure you tell everybody. Interactive show, broadcasting live here. We have the Sam Cam running up live. Of course, we are broadcasting live on WDCE 90.1 FM. Sir Philosopher in the chat as well. Cringer, my best friend, coming in over here on YouTube. Remember, setting the standard, raising the bar. the only way a real media puppet knows how to do. And of course, like I said, we are here Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and of course, you can hear my beautiful puppet voice on WDCE 90.1 FM. Couple other things here going on. Let's see here. Dirty Field Guy joining in, of course, on the chat as well. Tell everybody, let everybody know we're setting the standard, of course, raising the bar. I do have Professor Deep Cut Dave coming in a few moments. We're going to be talking about Sega. Now I have Mary Murr. Mary Murr is one of the executive producers of the show, senior executive producer. She works remotely. Yeah, well, she works remotely. But she asked me and she said, "Hey, are you going to keep talking about Sega and Sega Genesis?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course. Of course we're going to talk about Sega Genesis." So she just sat there. She rolled her eyes. She was like, "Oh, Sega Genesis is boring." But it's not going to be boring this week. In fact, it's not been boring any week. Because anytime Deep Cut Dave, she did say that I love Deep Cut Dave's segment. Yeah, Professor Deep Cut Dave's segment. But she was like, "I'm so sick of Sega." So this is the last week we're going to do Sega. And of course, we're going to end with who? Yes, the blue mascot. That is Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. We're going to be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, the video game. And the subsequent cartoons that went from that. That came about from that. Yeah, and you know what? I also have a couple of, I do have another jam as well, another Sega jam that I threw in. Well, because I didn't realize that, that's in the weeds right now. But anyways, Deep Cut Dave, Professor Deep Cut Dave, going to join us here in a few moments. And remember, the only way you can hear the radio themes and the themes that we play on the radio is when? Well, of course. That is if you download the Live 365 app, search WDCE. I say that first because most people watching and listening are all over the country. We have people over in Singapore. We have people all over the place. Singapore, over in Europe, coast to coast. We have people regularly listening from the Pacific Northwest, all over the place. Shout out to, who's it? Copeland 0311. Copeland joining in. Make sure again, shout out to everybody joining in and listening and watching. Make sure if you do have some issues, I know we have the Instagram feed here, but we do have the YouTube, Facebook, and X stream over here as well. So, and sometimes people think that one better. Well, when it comes to better, I'm telling you what, I feel a lot better. And you say, "Well, Sam, why do you mean you feel a lot better?" Well, I feel a lot better because there is something that has happened. Oh, yeah, hold on one second. Let me just see if I can bring this up. Okay, yep, I got it. Okay. Yeah, something has come up over the last couple of days that is important, and we need to talk about it. But I'm wondering if I should hold off on it for one more week. I think I probably will hold off on it one more week. I will. And I say the reason why is because when I talk about this figure over here, I have a figure here that is the first figure that's been released in 38 years. From an ID not released in 38 years. And I was going to sit there and take some time and say, "Oh, shout out to Matt Carmick, Matt Carmick 95." I was going to sit there and take a few moments and talk about this figure in relation to, yes, in relation to Ramen Toy. But you know what happened is that I forgot my hat. I forgot the Ramen Toy hat because I believe when I sit there and I talk about this figure, and you know what, I might just do this from Toy Town. I might just do a special presentation from Toy Town. Here I am. I'm sitting here with the first Brave Star figure. I'm sitting here with the first Brave Star figure that I've had in 38 years. The first Brave Star figure that I have. And the reason why I say Brave Star, people say the sheriff. I see a couple people in the chat saying the sheriff, the sheriff, the sheriff. That's what it was online. That is what it said online. It said the sheriff. However, if you can see this over here, I'm not sure if you can see it. When it showed up, it was actually branded as Brave Star. I'm going to say that again. When this showed up, it was labeled as the sheriff. When it shows up in Toy Town, it doesn't say the sheriff. There's no third party label. No, you know what it says? It says Brave Star. Now, I know that Dawson Toys does not have the license for Brave Star. And then I have my friend over at Ramen Toy, Ace, doing the best that he can. Doing the best that he can to try to do things above board. Here he is getting cease and desist letters from Hasbro, from Mattel. Why? Is because Ace gets it. Hashtag Ace gets it. Ace is trying to just give everybody what they want. Ace is just trying to give everybody what they want. And then out of nowhere, clipping him in the kneecaps is this Dawson Toys. And it's a figure, and it is Brave Star. It's not the sheriff. It's Brave Star. In his Filmation regalia, no less. The image of Brave Star that children who remember and grew up with Brave Star was the toy design figure that they never got. And I'll tell you the reason why they never got it is because in 1986, Kenner released an action figure line known as the Silverhawks for the Christmas season in 1986. 1986, Kenner releases the Silverhawks. What are they? They are vac metal silver-plated figures, and it is incredible. People loved them. They had little action figures, and they shined. They shined. But you know what? Mattel was sitting there thinking, even though still riding on the success of He-Man, He-Man was dwindling at that point. G.I. Joe still going strong for Hasbro, but Mattel said, we need to have something to counter Hasbro. We need to have something to counter Kenner. What can we do? Oh, well, there is this Brave Star property that Filmation is working on. This property that Filmation is working on. And what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and make figures from that. Well, they just have kind of preliminary designs, but we can help them with that. We just need to make sure that we get this toy line out into the public in 1986 for the Christmas holiday season. What? What do you mean? No. Oh, the cartoon's not going to come out until next year? That's okay. Listen, we got to sit there and go. We run to Lou Scheimer, and we say, hey, Lou, let's just go ahead and we can go ahead and start and generate the vibe of Brave Star a year before the cartoon even comes out with a bunch of toys that have toy designs and looks that are nothing like the cartoon. And then you wonder what happened after that. Filmation never recovered. They released Brave Star the cartoon, a space western. A space western with a, yes, for the first time, a Native American lead as the hero. And what happened? Well, Filmation, shortly after Brave Star, had to close down. There was one more, I believe, one more movie. Was it The Secret of Nymph? I think maybe it was the last full feature. But because of what happened with Mattel, rushing out an action figure wave a year before the show even broadcasted, what happens? The greatest cartoon and series of the 1980s is relegated to a deep cut. And Filmation being the last studio that did everything in-house. They did not sit there and throw off and, uh, what was it? Um, have a contractor for this part of the show or that part of the show. They did everything in-house. Voice acting, local voice actors in Hollywood came by. They would do show after show after show, starting with He-Man, going to She-Ra, then going to Ghostbusters, then going to Brave Star. All the animation was done in-house. And you know what they said to Lou Scheimer? When Lou Scheimer, remember, Lou Scheimer, who was the one who was influential in setting Masters of the Universe on the path that you know it today. The original voice of Orko. You know what the Hollywood executives told Lou Scheimer? They told him, listen, you need to get away from all this kid educational crap. We're tired of the kid educational crap. Nobody wants to see the kid educational crap. Why? Because at the end of every episode, just like G.I. Joe, just like Thundercats, just like Silverhawks, just like many of the shows in the 80s, there was a lesson for every single episode. It wasn't just an episode. It wasn't just, oh, we're just trying to do this to sell some toys. There was a lesson at the end of it. Maybe G.I. Joe was trying to sell some toys. But in terms of Lou Scheimer and what Lou Scheimer was trying to do, when those executives said, you need to cut all this kid crap out, this kid educational crap, and he said, you know what? I will let my studio burn before I let that happen. I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but he told him to go kick rocks. He said, I'm not going to forsake the education of kids. It's my responsibility. My responsibility that if I'm actively making children's programming, then I need to be teaching them lessons. That's Lou Scheimer. That's Brave Star. That's Filmation. And when I talk about Filmation and Brave Star, this Brave Star figure from Dawson Toys is the Brave Star that taught many of you lessons. And that's what's important. Are the lessons that you were taught. The lessons that you were taught by G.I. Joe, not to go into a strange white van. The lessons that you were taught on Silverhawks, that there were 9 planets, but there's only 8 now because Pluto no longer is considered one. It's the lessons that you learned from Brave Star when he told you that if you do drugs, you got to be careful because you might overdose. They didn't tell you to do drugs. They said that you shouldn't. And he said you need to surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you, make you a better person, challenge you to be better, hold you accountable. But the Hollywood executives said, nah, we don't want to hear that crap. And of course, because Mattel was so greedy, wanting to sell some figures at Christmas, well, yeah. Not too long after that, like I said, Filmation ended up shutting down. And Brave Star was the last beacon of light for an era of 80s cartoons that, with Filmation's closing, closed the golden age of 80s cartoons. couple of other people coming in: Slick, Mud Scuffer, Moto Viper, AM Customs 80. AM Customs 80 said, "Did you pick up the new Brave Star figure from Dawson Toys?" Yes, that's what we've been talking about. And I do have some responses from Ace from Ramen Toy. However, I sent him a couple of questions the other day. I'm still waiting for those questions, but I have a couple of ones about this Dawson toy. But you know what? I want to make sure that I give Ace the proper respect when I read his answers by making sure I do have my Ramen Toy hat, which I did not bring today. So I'll be talking about that. Happy Splatter Day at Toy Mercs. Happy Splatter Day at Toy Mercs. Make sure that if you have a Splatter Day toy pick you want to go ahead and post, make sure you can do that following at Toy Mercs. Make sure you can also reach out to them. And there'll be a collaborator for your Splatter Day picture images. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Brave Star, and I'm going to play a couple of Sega jams. I'm going to have Deep Cut Dave probably come back, I think probably around 10:40. Me and Deep Cut Dave are going to come back. I'm also going to be here live. We're going to be here live on Instagram. We're going to be live here on Facebook, YouTube, and X. Probably going to be about 6-7 minutes, but what I want you guys to do, I want you to download the Live 365 app. Download the Live 365 app, search WDCE. Shout out to Dr. Mopar, who just jumped in. Just saw you. The Green-Eyed Crow, see you down there as well. Make sure you guys tell everybody in another 6-7 minutes, we'll be back. I'll be back here live over here. I'll be back live over here. And we'll have Deep Cut Dave. We're going to be talking about the blue mascot. That's right, the blue mascot of Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog, here on the only radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real media puppet. From the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Saturday Morning.